The message on the hostess's tablet stayed there long enough for her smile to weaken, but she did not know what to do with it yet. Across the ballroom, Marcus noticed nothing except the young busboy beside him trying to balance 12 water glasses on a silver tray with hands that trembled too much for the weight. The boy could not have been more than 19. His name tag said Jordan, and the collar of his white shirt was damp from rushing. A woman in a red designer dress snapped her fingers at him. "Excuse me, we asked for sparkling water 10 minutes ago." Jordan turned too fast. One glass slid, hit the tray's rim, and spilled across the woman's satin clutch. The sound was small, but the room reacted as if something expensive had died. The woman gasped. Denise looked over. The catering manager's face hardened before Jordan could speak. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Jordan said quickly, grabbing napkins from his pocket. "I'll clean it up. I'm so sorry. This bag costs more than your month," the woman said. People nearby looked away, the way people look away when cruelty is uncomfortable but entertaining. The catering manager stepped in, low voice sharp. "Jordan, kitchen. Now." Jordan's eyes went wide. "Sir, please. I need this shift." Marcus put his cap down and stood. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just firm enough that the chair legs scraped the polished floor. "It wasn't him," Marcus said. The manager turned. "Sir, I bumped the tray with my elbow." Jordan looked at Marcus, confused. "No, Marcus gave him a quiet look, the kind that told the truth to sit still for a minute. "Young man was doing his job. I should have watched where I was standing." The woman in red stared at Marcus's suit, then at his hands, then at the staff table behind him. Her mouth tightened. "Of course." Denise arrived with a controlled laugh. "Mr. Reed, that's very kind. But we can't have guests interfering with service." "I'm not interfering," Marcus said. "I'm taking responsibility." "For ruining a guest's property?" the woman asked. Marcus reached into his inside pocket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. Naomi had given it to him years ago after her first paycheck. The edges were cracked now. He opened it and removed 3 folded bills he had saved for the valet, a tip for the servers and gas for the drive home. "This won't replace your bag," he said, placing the money on the wet tablecloth. "But it's what I have tonight." The woman looked insulted by the amount. Denise looked embarrassed by the gesture. Jordan looked like he might cry. "Keep your money," the woman said, pushing the bills back with one finger as though touching them too long would stain her. "Just keep people like this away from the main tables." The words landed harder than the spilled water. Marcus picked up the bills slowly. Across the room, Naomi stepped out of the photo lineup. Caleb caught her wrist gently, not to stop her, but to steady her. Denise saw it and moved first. "Naomi, sweetheart, don't make this a scene." Marcus turned toward his daughter and shook his head again. But this time his eyes were not asking her to stay quiet for the Whitmores. They were asking her not to lose herself because they had already lost decency. The catering manager leaned close to Jordan. "One more mistake and you're gone." Marcus heard that too. He folded the bills back into his wallet and sat down. His hands rested on the table, broad and still, but under the cloth his left thumb rubbed the brass pin on his driver's cap. Jordan whispered, "Why would you do that for me?" Marcus looked at the water spreading slowly toward the edge of the table. "Because a man's job shouldn't be the reason people stop seeing him." Near the ballroom doors, the hostess finally carried the tablet to Denise. "Mrs. Whitmore," she whispered. "The governor's office is asking where Mr. Marcus Reed is seated." Denise's smile twitched. "Tell them he hasn't arrived yet." Denise took the tablet from the hostess as if it had personally offended her. The screen glowed against her pearl manicure. The governor's seal small but unmistakable at the top of the message. For 1 second, the practiced calm left her face. Then she turned her back to the room and lowered her voice. "There must be another Marcus Reed." The hostess swallowed. "It says father of the bride on the attachment." Denise's eyes flicked toward Marcus at the staff table where Jordan was wiping the last of the water from the floor. "Then the attachment is wrong." In the hotel service hallway, 2 men in dark suits had just entered through the side door. They were not wedding guests. They did not carry gifts or champagne. One spoke into a cuff microphone, scanning the exits, while the other held a slim folder stamped with the state of Georgia crest. "Governor Ellis is 10 minutes out," he said to the venue manager. "We need to confirm the honoree's location before he arrives." "Honoree?" the manager repeated. The man opened the folder just enough for the manager to see a printed program. Lifetime Civic Service Recognition Dinner, Marcus Elijah Reed, Route 47. The manager blinked. "This is a rehearsal dinner." "Correct," the aide said. "The family approved the surprise presentation last month." Back in the ballroom, Marcus felt his phone buzz once in his pocket. He pulled it out under the edge of the table. A known number. The text was simple. "Mr. Reed, this is Angela Moore from Governor Ellis's office. We're on site. Please remain available." Marcus stared at the words until they blurred slightly. He locked the phone and slid it back into his pocket. Jordan noticed. "Everything okay, sir?" Marcus nodded, but his hand moved to his wallet. Inside, behind his transit card and a faded photo of Naomi in a middle school choir robe, was a folded letter soft from years of being opened and closed. He did not take it out. Not here. Not while his daughter was trying to hold her future together across the room. Naomi watched him from beside Caleb, her jaw tight, her eyes asking questions he had spent years avoiding. She knew her father had driven buses. She knew he had raised her alone after her mother died. She knew he came home some nights with swollen feet, smelling of diesel and hand sanitizer, still patient enough to help with homework. But she did not know why every election season, Samuel Ellis sent her father a handwritten Christmas card. She did not know why Marcus never posted them on the fridge. She did not know why he always said, "Helping somebody doesn't mean you own their gratitude." Denise returned the tablet to the hostess. "Tell the governor's office Mr. Reed is delayed. We'll locate him before the presentation." "But he's right there," the hostess whispered. Denise's smile sharpened. "No, he is seated in the wrong place, and I am correcting a misunderstanding." She walked toward Marcus with the smooth steps of a woman cleaning a stain before guests could notice it. "Mr. Reed," she said, bending slightly. "There seems to be some confusion with the state office. Did you perhaps tell someone you were part of tonight's program?" Marcus looked up slowly. Jordan stopped wiping. The nearby servers went still. "No, ma'am," Marcus said. "I didn't tell anybody anything. Because this is a private family event," Denise continued, her voice sweet enough for witnesses, "and we cannot allow outside attention to turn Naomi's evening into something uncomfortable." Marcus glanced toward his daughter. Naomi had started walking toward them now. Caleb followed, pale with realization he could not yet name. Marcus stood, picking up his cap by the brim. The brass pin caught the chandelier light, and for the first time Denise actually read the words on it. Civic Hero Award. Her eyes narrowed, not with respect, but calculation. Before she could speak again, a security aide entered the ballroom, looked past the floral arch, past the Whitmore table, past the donors and lawyers and crystal glasses, then stopped at the staff table. His gaze landed on Marcus. He lifted his wrist to his mouth and said quietly, "We found him." The security aide's words did not make the ballroom louder. They made it quieter in a way that felt heavier. Marcus stood beside the staff table with his cap in his hand, while Denise's smile froze halfway between welcome and warning. The aide walked toward him, not with the impatience people used on staff, but with the careful respect reserved for judges, donors, and men whose names changed schedules. "Mr. Reed," he said, offering his hand. "Angela Moore, Governor Ellis's advance team. We've been looking for you." Marcus shook his hand once. "I wasn't lost." Angela's eyes moved to the staff table, the removed place card, the servers pretending not to listen. She understood. More than she said. "The governor would like you near the front before he arrives." Denise stepped in quickly. "Of course, we were just adjusting the seating. This evening has been very fluid." Naomi reached her father then, breath tight in her chest. "Daddy, what is going on?" Marcus looked at her the way he had looked at her when she was 7 and asked why the lights had gone off after he missed a bill. Not ashamed, just careful with the truth. Somebody from the state wanted to stop by, he said. That's all. That's all. Naomi whispered. Angela opened the slim folder in her hand. Inside was a printed agenda, thick cream paper, gold seal at the top, the kind of paper that made every other invitation in the room look temporary. Marcus saw his name in bold and closed the folder with 2 fingers before Naomi could read the whole thing. Not yet, he said softly. Tonight is yours. Denise heard that and almost relaxed, because a humble man was easier to manage than an angry one. Then Angela turned to the venue manager. We'll need the front table cleared, the microphone tested, and a direct path from the east entrance. The ballroom changed around those words. Staff straightened. The photographer lowered his camera. Victor Whitmore came forward, his lawyer's face smooth but his eyes alert.
I'm Victor Whitmore.
Is there a security concern? Only protocol, Angela said. The governor does not enter a room until we know who is seated where. That sentence landed like a warning. Denise lifted her chin. Mrs. Whitmore, Angela added, we also need confirmation that Mr. Reed's original family seating was preserved. Naomi looked at the taped-over chart. Caleb looked too. Denise did not. Marcus did. He could have let the silence expose her right there. Instead, he picked up the fallen name card from where the hostess had tucked it under the clipboard and placed it flat on the table. My seat is wherever I can see my daughter, he said. Angela studied him for a moment, as if measuring the difference between dignity and surrender. Before she could respond, a sharp crash came from the service corridor. A metal tray hit the floor, followed by a small cry. Marcus turned. Before anyone else moved, an older banquet worker had collapsed against the wall, one hand pressed to her chest, her breathing shallow and uneven. While guests stared, Marcus crossed the room fast, not running, but moving with the trained urgency of a man who had handled panic on crowded buses. He knelt beside her, loosened her collar, and told Jordan, call 911. Tell them chest pain, conscious, breathing. Then he looked at Angela. Does your team have medical? Angela was already on her radio. East corridor. Medical assist now. Denise hovered at the ballroom entrance, angry that a crisis had stolen control from her. Victor stepped back to make space. Caleb finally moved, helping clear chairs from the corridor. Naomi crouched beside her father, holding the worker's hand. The woman opened her eyes and stared at Marcus through tears. Route 47, she whispered. You used to wait until I got inside my building. Marcus smiled just enough to steady her. And I'm still waiting. Angela heard it. So did Denise. And from across the ballroom, as the governor's escort lights flashed beyond the glass doors, Denise reached for the hostess's tablet again, her thumb hovering over the report form marked incident involving Marcus Reed. The first paramedic reached the east corridor in 4 minutes, but by then Marcus had already done the thing he had spent a lifetime doing without applause. He had kept everyone calm. The older worker, Miss Loretta, sat propped against the wall with Naomi's jacket under her shoulders and Jordan kneeling beside her, counting each breath the way Marcus had told him. Stay with me, ma'am, Marcus said, his voice low and even. In through your nose if you can. Don't fight the air. Miss Loretta squeezed his wrist. You remember everybody, don't you? Only the ones who mattered, Marcus said. Naomi looked at him then, really looked, as if the man kneeling on hotel carpet in his old suit was suddenly larger than the ballroom behind him. The paramedic asked what happened, and Marcus gave the facts in order. Time of collapse, chest pain, breathing, no fall to the head, no food allergy mentioned. No panique, no performance, just details clean enough to save minutes. Angela Moore watched from the edge of the corridor, her phone pressed to her ear. Yes, she said quietly. It's him, same man. Denise heard that and went still. Miss Loretta's hand loosened when the oxygen mask settled over her face. Before they rolled her out, she tugged weakly at Marcus's sleeve. You gave me rides when my husband was in chemo, she whispered. You waited after midnight. Marcus lowered his head so she would not have to raise her voice. You paid your fare. I did my route. No, she breathed. You did more. Naomi swallowed hard. Caleb stood behind her, his hands useless at his sides, shame moving across his face in slow pieces. When the paramedics took Miss Loretta toward the service elevator, Marcus finally reached for his cap. It had fallen beneath a chair during the rush. Naomi picked it up first. Her thumb brushed the brass pin. Civic Hero Award, she read softly. Daddy, why didn't you tell me about this? Marcus took the cap but did not put it on. Because awards don't raise children. Work does. Across the hall, a sharp voice broke the moment. Security needs to check the west entrance, a man said, too loudly, into a radio that was not turned on. Marcus's eyes moved before his head did. The man wore a black suit like the venue staff, but his shoes were soft-soled, not dress shoes, and the plastic badge clipped to his jacket had the wrong hotel logo. Marcus had seen enough fake transfers, fake disability passes, fake emergency stories, and fake uniforms in 32 years to know when somebody was dressed for access instead of service. The man's gaze slipped toward the bridal gift table, where envelopes and small velvet boxes were stacked beside a crystal card chest. Marcus stepped into his path. Evening, he said. The man tried to pass. Staff only. Then you know the kitchen entrance is behind you. The man's jaw tightened. Marcus raised his voice just enough. Angela. The aide turned. So did two real security officers. The fake staffer dropped the radio and ran 3 steps before Caleb blocked him with a chair. Jordan grabbed the radio from the floor. In less than a minute, security found 2 open gift envelopes inside the man's jacket. It was a small victory, but the room felt it. Guests who had avoided Marcus's eyes now stared as if they were seeing the full shape of him too late. Angela thanked him in front of everyone. Victor Whitmore said, Mr. Reed, that was impressive. Marcus only looked toward Jordan. Good catch on the radio. Jordan stood taller. Naomi's eyes filled, not with pity now but pride. Denise saw it all. The staff listening to Marcus, her son respecting him, the governor's aide trusting him, and the room beginning to turn. Her face hardened. She took the hostess's tablet, opened the incident report, and typed with cold, careful fingers. Marcus Reed disrupted dinner, interfered with staff, and created a security disturbance before the governor's arrival. Denise did not send the report right away. She carried the tablet like a tray of poison, waiting until the room's attention drifted back toward the front doors and the governor's lights washed blue and red across the ballroom glass. Then she touched Victor's elbow and guided him behind the floral wall, where white roses hid everything except their voices. This is becoming embarrassing, she whispered. For whom? Victor asked. Denise looked at him as if the answer should have been obvious. For this family. A bus driver is now giving orders to security, handling medical issues, interrupting guests. If the governor walks in and sees confusion, it reflects on us. Victor's face tightened, but he did not defend Marcus. He only said, Be careful. Denise heard permission in that silence. She stepped back into the ballroom wearing concern like perfume. Everyone, she said gently to the nearest cluster of guests. Please forgive the disturbance. Mr. Reed means well, but tonight has clearly overwhelmed him. The lie did not come out cruel. That was what made it dangerous. Came out soft, polished, maternal. People leaned in because Denise sounded like a woman protecting a wedding from disorder, not a woman burying a man. Within minutes, the story changed shape as it moved from table to table. Marcus had argued with staff. Marcus had grabbed security. Marcus had made the sick workers episode about himself. Marcus had claimed the governor was coming for him. Naomi heard the first whisper near the dessert station. Is her father unstable? A woman asked behind a champagne flute. Naomi turned so sharply the woman looked down at her plate. Across the room, Marcus watched the pattern. He knew routes. He knew how trouble traveled. On a bus, panic moved seat by seat before anyone screamed. In a ballroom, gossip did the same thing, only dressed better. He saw Denise speak to the catering manager. He saw the manager look toward Jordan. He saw Jordan's shoulders fold inward. Marcus walked over before the boy could be cornered. "You don't have to say anything that isn't true," Marcus said quietly. Jordan's eyes flicked to the manager. "They said I could lose shifts." "Then remember exactly what happened," Marcus said. "Time, place, who stood where. Truth likes details." Naomi appeared beside him with her phone already in her hand. "Dad, I found your original place card in the trash by the hostess stand." She showed him the photo. Marcus Reed, father of the bride, table 1. The card was bent, one corner stained with coffee. Marcus looked at the screen, then at his daughter. "Don't fight loud," he said. "Fight clean." Together, they began collecting what the room had tried to erase. Naomi photographed the taped seating chart. Marcus asked the hostess, not accusing, just steady, "What time did my seat change?" Her lips trembled. "Mrs. Whitmore told me before you arrived." "Write that down while you remember it," Marcus said. Denise saw them from the far side of the room. Her mask slipped for half a second. Then she clapped her hands once, bright and controlled. "Security," she called. "Please escort Mr. Reed to the private waiting area until the governor's team sorts this out." 2 guards stepped forward, uncertain. Angela Moore was still near the entrance, blocked by a cluster of staff preparing for the governor's arrival. Denise lifted the tablet for everyone to see. "We have an incident report signed by venue management. Mr. Reed disrupted service, interfered with security, and intimidated employees." The words hit Naomi first. "That's a lie." Denise turned to her with wounded eyes. "Sweetheart, I know he's your father, but love can make us overlook behavior." Caleb took one step forward, then stopped when his mother looked at him. Jordan opened his mouth, but the catering manager gripped his elbow. Marcus felt the whole ballroom waiting to see whether he would prove the lie by getting angry. So he placed his cap on the table, brass pin facing up, and raised both hands slightly. "I'll walk," he said. Naomi grabbed his sleeve.
Daddy? No.
Marcus looked at the guards, then at the nearest security camera above the ballroom arch. "Just make sure that camera keeps recording." As they led him toward the side hallway, Denise pressed send on the report, and the governor's advance team received the accusation before the governor ever stepped into the room. The side hallway smelled of bleach, hot bread, and fear. Marcus walked between the 2 guards without pulling his arms away, though neither man was really holding him. They stopped near a service elevator where stacked banquet chairs leaned against the wall, and the music from the ballroom came through muffled, like celebration heard from underwater. One guard cleared his throat. "Sir, I don't think you did anything wrong." Marcus looked at him. "Then don't let wrong borrow your hands." The guard lowered his eyes. Inside the ballroom, Naomi stood where her father's cap still rested on the table, the brass pin catching little flashes from the chandeliers. Caleb finally reached for her, but she stepped back before his fingers touched her sleeve. "You watched them move him," she said. "You watched them lie." Caleb's face broke open with shame. "I didn't know how bad it was." "You didn't want to know." That landed harder than shouting. Across the room, Victor Whitmore stared at the incident report on Denise's tablet. His signature was not on it, but his silence was everywhere inside it. Near the staff entrance, Jordan pulled away from the catering manager and followed the hallway, his phone hidden against his apron. He found Marcus beside the service elevator, standing alone now because the guards had drifted a few steps away, unsure what they were supposed to protect anyone from. "Mr. Reed," Jordan whispered. "She made them say you threatened me." Marcus did not look surprised. That hurt Jordan more than anger would have. "Did you?" Marcus asked. "No." "Then keep that truth clean." Jordan's hand shook as he lifted his phone. "I recorded her. Not all of it, but enough. She told Mr. Peters to write that you were aggressive before the governor came in. She said nobody would believe a bus driver over the Whitmores." Marcus looked at the small black screen like it weighed more than the crystal chandeliers outside. "Why would you risk your job?" Jordan swallowed. "Because you risked yours for mine and you don't even work here." For the first time that night, Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out the folded letter. The paper was soft at the creases, the ink faded but still clear. Jordan read the top line before Marcus could close it again. Dear Mr. Reed, I would not be alive today without your courage. Governor Samuel Ellis had signed it years before he became governor. The old brass pin on Marcus's cap was not a decoration. It was the public piece of a private debt. Jordan understood it then, and so did Naomi when she stepped into the hallway behind him, holding the cap with both hands. Daddy, she whispered, why did you let them do this to you? Marcus looked at the cap, then at the daughter he had spent his life trying to place in better rooms than the ones that judged him. Because I needed to see whether the man marrying you would stand up before the governor did. Caleb appeared behind her, pale and silent. There was no excuse left for him to hide inside. Before anyone could speak, Angela Moore came through the corridor with 2 state troopers and the venue's head of security. Her expression was no longer polite. It was official. Mr. Reed, she said, the governor received an incident report accusing you of misconduct. Naomi lifted Jordan's phone. Then we need the cameras. Now. Angela looked from the phone to Marcus, then to the cap in Naomi's hands. Once we start pulling footage, this becomes part of the governor's security record. Marcus put his cap on slowly, the civic hero pin facing forward. Then pull it, he said. All of it. Angela did not move until Marcus nodded. Then the hallway changed from family embarrassment into an investigation. A state trooper sealed the service entrance. The venue's head of security unlocked the camera room. Naomi, Caleb, Jordan, and Marcus followed Angela past racks of linens and silver carts until they reached a narrow office filled with monitors. On one screen, the ballroom glowed gold and white. On another, the staff table sat half-hidden behind a column. Angela pointed to the timestamp. Start before Mr. Reed arrived. The footage rolled backward in silence. Denise appeared on screen, speaking to the hostess, one finger tapping Marcus's name on the seating chart. The hostess removed the card from table 1 and covered the name with cream tape. Angela looked at the venue manager. Who authorized that change? The man's throat moved. Mrs. Whitmore requested it. Play the audio from corridor 3, Marcus said quietly. Everyone looked at him. That camera's near the service arch. If the mic is live, it caught more than the room camera. The security chief hesitated, then clicked. Denise's voice came through thin but clear. Seat him with the staff. He'll be more comfortable there. Naomi closed her eyes, but only for a second. Keep going. The false report broke next. The footage showed Jordan dropping the glass before Marcus stood, showed Marcus placing money on the table, showed the woman in red pushing it away. No threat. No shouting. Then the security clip showed Marcus spotting the fake staffer, stepping into his path, and calling Angela before the man ran. Angela's jaw tightened. That is not interference. That is prevention. Jordan handed over his recording. Denise's voice filled the small office, softer than a knife and just as sharp. Write that he acted aggressive. No one will believe a bus driver over the Whitmores. Caleb turned away as if the words had slapped him. Marcus did not look satisfied. He looked tired. There's one more piece, he said, taking the folded letter from his wallet. Angela unfolded it with gloved care. The signature at the bottom matched the framed photograph on her phone. Samuel Ellis, years. Before office, standing beside a younger Marcus in a transit jacket. This is why the governor came, she said. Not because of a rumor, because of a record. 5 minutes later, the ballroom lights dimmed for what Denise thought would be the governor's entrance under her control. She stood near the front table, chin lifted, smoothing the damage into a story she could survive. Then Governor Samuel Ellis walked in and did not stop at the Whitmore table. He did not shake Victor's hand. He did not pose beneath the floral arch. He walked straight to the staff table, where Marcus's chair sat empty and his place card had been restored. The governor took the microphone. Before I speak about marriage, family, or public service, he said, his voice carrying to every corner, I need to ask why the man I came here to honor was removed from his family's table. A sound moved through the room. Not a gasp exactly, but the collapse of certainty. Denise stepped forward quickly. Governor, there was a misunderstanding. Mr. Reed became disruptive, and we were only trying to protect the evening. Angela lifted a tablet. The first clip appeared on the ballroom screen. Denise ordering Marcus moved. The second, Denise's report contradicted by camera. The third, her voice instructing staff to call him aggressive. Each layer landed with its own silence. Marcus stood beside Naomi at the back of the room. Not hidden now, not escorted now. The governor turned toward him. Mr. Reed, may I tell them what you never asked me to tell? Marcus looked at Naomi, then at the staff table, then at the guests who had watched him be reduced to a chair near the kitchen. He gave one small nod. Governor Ellis unfolded the old letter under the lights. 18 years ago, this man saved my life at a bus stop on Route 47. Tonight, the truth is not arriving late. It is arriving exactly where the lie was told. The old letter trembled slightly in Governor Ellis's hand, but Marcus stood still. The room that had laughed with its eyes now watched him like a man finally coming into focus. Denise tried to speak, but Victor touched her arm and, for the first time that night, did not let her step forward. No, he said quietly. You've said enough. The governor called Marcus to the front, not through the side aisle, but down the center of the ballroom. Naomi walked beside her father, holding his cap with both hands. When Marcus reached the microphone, Ellis placed the framed civic honor in his hands and said, Georgia owes dignity to people who carry this state before anyone knows their names. The applause started near the staff table. Jordan stood first, then Miss Loretta's co-workers, then Caleb, then the guests who had been silent when silence was easy. Marcus did not smile until Naomi placed his navy cap back in his hands. Denise's consequences came before the dessert plates were cleared. Angela filed the false incident report with the venue and the governor's office. The hotel removed the catering manager from the event for pressuring staff. Victor withdrew the Whitmore family's name from the charity board Denise chaired until an ethics review could be completed. Denise faced Marcus with her pearls still perfect and her voice finally bare. I was protecting my family's reputation. Marcus looked at the staff table, then back at her. No, ma'am. You were protecting your pride from my uniform. She apologized into the same microphone she had tried to control, naming what she had done. Moved his seat, hid him from photographs, lied about his conduct, and pressured workers beneath her. Marcus accepted the words, but not as a shortcut back to comfort. An apology is a door, he said. You still have to walk through it different. Naomi turned to Caleb next. The room softened, expecting romance to fix what shame had broken, but she did not give them that. I love you, she said, but I will not marry into a family where truth waits for permission. Caleb nodded, tears standing in his eyes. Then I'll earn the right to stand beside you again. Not tonight, not with a speech, with what I do after this. He removed his mother's hand from his sleeve and stood with Naomi at Marcus's side. The wedding was not canceled in anger, but it was postponed with clarity. Weeks later, the story did not end with a larger check or a new car in Marcus's driveway. It ended with a new name on a public program, the Route 47 Dignity Fund, created for the children of bus drivers, janitors, servers, home health aides, and every worker families noticed only when something went wrong. The first scholarship was handed to Jordan, who used it to finish community college. At the rescheduled wedding months later, the seating chart had no hidden corners. Marcus Reed sat at the center family table, his name printed in dark ink, uncovered. Before the photographer raised his camera, Naomi reached for her father's Navy driver's cap and set it gently on the table in front of him. The brass Civic Hero pin caught the light, no longer a clue people ignored, but a truth nobody in that room could look away from.